What's up, you lazy, entitled, basement-dwelling millennials, bootstrapping boomers, apathetic Xers, and goddamn Gen Z kids today? We're a couple of guys, and we thought that today would be a great day to talk about women's issues.
That's right. It's been brought to my attention that we do not address women's issues a ton.
Clearly, it's our place to talk about these things and really figure this out. So, abortion, that's what we're going to talk about today.
I mean, we might as well, throw our hats in the ring, metaphorically and possibly literally, here today to, discuss something that affects pretty much everybody. Even if you are a man, it could affect your loved ones, your mother at minimum, and or siblings, daughters, wives, all those things. So this is definitely an issue that should be talked about by men as much, as well.
Absolutely should be. And the thing is, I think that most of the time that men talk about this, they're talking out of turn, and
we're waiting. Well, you could put this in the back of the line if you want to. Like, feel free to listen to this last if you're doing any sort of,
That said, we do our best to not talk out of turn. I think that obviously this is advocacy for the women who get mansplained to a lot about what they should be and shouldn't be allowed to do with their bodies, and that's not what we're here to do. I think the opposite.
No, we're Republisplain, or Demistain, progressive strain.
Sure,
Slain.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
What's the opposite? What's the mansplaining version of explaining something to conservatives or Republicans? Republisplain? That doesn't sound
No. That is because if it's mansplaining, the man is explaining. So we need to be like libsplaining, I guess. I mean, I don't want to really be called a lib.
No, it's not even remotely close to our actual politics either.
No.
And progressive splaining doesn't.
It doesn't really roll off the tongue there. Commusplain.
Yeah, and that's probably the best one. Social splain? No.
It just doesn't work. Libsplain, honestly. Left-splaining. There we go. Thank you. Thank you.
That's why we're on the live right there.
Yep. The live coming in clutch. Thank you guys. Left-splaining.
Yeah. We're here to left-splain abortion to people who just think that there's really any place for any criminalization or really any regulation on a federal level, other than just to make sure that
nobody else is regulating. The only regulation there should be no regulation aside from doctors should be properly regulated to perform these procedures and be a doctor. But like as far as what a woman's allowed to do between her and her medical professional, absolutely no regulation across the board except to protect that freedom.
Right. Exactly.
And this has been a pretty hot topic. I've done a lot of content about this recently, and I will probably be doing some more because some people got some feelings and they need to be reminded that they're wrong, and I like doing that.
It's probably one of your favorite things.
It really is one of my favorite things to do. No, I noticed even driving over here today, somebody tagged me in a video responding to my most recent abortion video, and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna feel pretty silly because I'm gonna like explain it to you." And then, let's put it this way: I don't feel like I should be giving him the attention because I'm pretty sure he's clout chasing, but he's making it really fucking hard, and it's going to be really easy. And making people who deserve to cry themselves to sleep at night is a responsibility I take very seriously. And anybody who says that women shouldn't have control over their own bodies should cry themselves to sleep at night. So I work hard on that.
It ain't much, but it's an honest day's work.
Exactly. So anyway, you had a brief history of abortion in there, and I'll let you take it away because we really should have the fundamentals of where we got to where we are today on that.
Yeah, this is a pretty cut and dry sort of recap here. So previous to the 20th century, it was legal in various different states in various different ways. And then basically by around the 1910s, it is completely illegal in all states. And then from 1910 to 19...
I'm curious, when you were doing this research, because this is something that I should have done by now and I still haven't, is where did it go from that disconnect of it being kind of legal and accepted, obviously, through a lot of history, to not being?
Basically, it was legal in various forms up to 1910.
Yeah.
In varying states. And then just kind of the conglomeration of Christian whatever, led states to ban it entirely.
Okay.
In the early 1900s.
Yeah.
So I before that,
no,
it's almost like it never existed.
Right, but then then it's like, because it's weird that they came in with the abortion ban in the 1910s, and then obviously it was illegal up until Roe v. Wade, basically, in a lot of the country anyway. And then once Roe v. Wade was passed, it was pretty non-controversial after that for till the 1980s, basically, late 1970s, which it was 2 decades of it being not super controversial.
I would say it was still very controversial in the 70s and in leading up to the 80s, especially from the Christian conservative right. I don't think that ever went down. It kind of piggyback on like the feminist movement and the anti-feminist movement, like abortion sort of like rode that wave, surfed the wave of anti-feminism.
But I mean, you say Christian conservative, but there was religion wasn't really tied to a political party until 1980.
I don't know if I'm prepared to say that statement's true or not, but I do know that Christians specifically,
well, Catholics only, really, and maybe Baptists. Protestants were usually on the side of pro-choice, along with most more Protestant-y religions, the ones that fall under that umbrella.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you're right in most aspects.
Anyway, sorry, I didn't know if when you were doing this part of the outline, if you'd come across any more of that, so we can move on from that.
No, I didn't really didn't really care to understand why it was banned.
Yeah,
because it just is dumb. So I was
very dumb.
The historical reasoning as to why it was banned, I didn't look into. No, but basically from 1910 to 1973, it was banned, and there's not hard numbers out there as to how many people died or were really injured or whatever, but basically the only estimates I could find were tens of thousands of women over the course of 50 to 60 years, died from complications from illegal procedures.
And there's really no way to quantify that because you have no idea. There was no statistics kept on those particular.
Well, even if they did, it was hidden. Sort of the procedures were illegal and they were hidden and they were done in hotel rooms and just in really shady spots. And so this was basically a black market. Yeah. So it's very hard to get accurate representation of numbers for a situation like that. And to keep that in perspective, around 40,000 women die every year today worldwide due to unsafe abortions and just health complications of
I'm actually surprised worldwide it seems low to me. I mean, it's obviously a lot of people and unnecessarily large amount of people.
I think that's specifically from abortions.
Or just
not pregnancy or giving birth. I think that's specifically to receiving unsafe abortions and just health complications due to whatever reasons.
Right, okay. That makes sense.
So, and that's just today. So basically, you could say that this issue is probably, abortions being done unsafely has killed hundreds of thousands of women in the last 100 years.
Okay. That's fair enough.
And then, obviously, in 1973, the Supreme Court codified Roe v. Wade and legalized abortion.
Well, they didn't codify it. They just that was a
they
Supreme
ruled,
Court decision.
Right.
Yeah,
they ruled that abortion was legal within the first trimester, and or up to viability. I think is what the determination was.
Yep.
And then in 1988, a couple crazy things happen. Ronald Reagan goes off the fucking rails, and Canada becomes the first and at this point only country ever to fully decriminalize abortion. So there's no penalty for doing it or receiving an abortion beyond what, if you were to try to get an abortion beyond what hospitals right now will allow you, or provincial states will allow you to do, you cannot be brought to any charges for that. So there is still restrictions on abortion in Canada. It's like 12 to 16, 9. I think the shortest was like 9 weeks depending on the province. But yeah, so that's like each province determines what gestational length you can do, and do you have to be in a hospital in order to receive certain medication, or can you take that stuff home? So it's there's still a lot of the same kind of limits that we're seeing from.
But I mean, a 9 week, that's a ban at that point if you can't get.
Yeah, that was that was the most restrictive one. There was only one province. I think it was way north Canada.
I mean, all the provinces all run north south, so they're.
It was Nunavut or something.
Yeah.
It started with
we're from America. We don't learn about other countries.
We don't think about other countries. We're the best one that's ever was, and everybody else sucks. But they also said that there is also a huge disparity between rural and urban access to abortions. In the Whitehorse region, basically you could only get an abortion in Whitehorse out of that whole northwest section of the country. So good for Canada to doing some things right.
Yeah.
And then 1988 slash 1984. Was it 1988 was the first National Sanctity of Life Day, or is that the second one?
I don't fucking know.
Anyways, so then we come into 1992. Planned Parenthood v. Casey upheld the right to abortion, but allowed states to impose restrictions. And then 2022, obviously, Supreme Court, Dodds v. Jackson's Women's Health Organization decision overturned Roe v. Wade, returning abortion regulation to the states. And as of right now, 22 states have brought further access, or at least protected abortion access. 14 states have brought full bans, and around 12 states have allowed for trigger bans and other, gestational term limit bans. But it is up to being voted on in supposedly around 10 states this November. In varying ways, whether that's reducing restrictions or just making it protected.
Codified rights within the state constitution.
Yep. That brings us to today.
Yeah. So obviously this has been a huge thing, and talking about Reagan, I think one of the funny things is or not funny, but sad things is when Jerry Falwell and Bob Jones and all of these big evangelical leaders really rallied, and created. The Christian right was created in the late 1970s, right before Ronald Reagan ran for president. And this was a lot of people don't know how recent segregation really still is, because there's still people alive who were alive pre-1968 and 1964, the Civil Rights Acts of the 1960s.
There's people in Congress that
most of Congress was alive at that point.
Exactly.
But then people think that after the Civil Rights Act, because we were slowly, desegregating the 1950s when schools were supposed to be desegregated and all this. People don't realize that private Christian schools could still legally segregate until the late 70s, early 80s. I want to say it was 78, but I'm just going off. And because there's just no hate like Christian love, all of the evangelicals were we've got these colleges where we really like them being white, you know, and so to get the they were trying to build a coalition to stop that, but you can't just be like, we're racist assholes, come support our cause, guys, everybody's doing it. So what they did was they picked abortion as really the rallying cry to say, all right, Ronald Reagan's going to end abortion and save the babies. And it was that sort of backroom deal of,
I mean, like a states' rights
yeah,
issue.
yeah, exactly. So anyway, the the fact that that's kind of really what drove the whole like abortion tied to a political party, tied to religion, is one of those things I think that really gets lost to our recent history. And the fact that, you know, if you're anti-choice, you're just supporting something racist at that point, which is just the theme of America at this point.
Truly, it's got to be like a partial theme of our podcast, because everything we talk about, we just like end up finding that a lot of the shit that's wrong with our society was born out of racism. Like truly, an astounding level.
It's just like if you want to blame something in society, you can either be like Ronald Reagan or racism, and Ronald Reagan was a racist, so you could still go back to racism with that too.
Right.
But yeah, and so we've gotten to this point now where this is, you know, there's tons of one-issue voters just on this topic, and I gotta admit, I got complacent on this topic. Like, I was like, Roe has been the precedent for 50-something years.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was going to get overturned. I genuinely didn't. I had far too much faith in the Supreme Court.
Yeah, right. When the three most recent Supreme Court nominees that were, brought in, all were like, Roe v. Wade is the law of the land, and I'd follow precedent, blah, blah, blah. Bam! Just kidding.
Yeah, fuck that precedent. And so that really took me by surprise. And again, this is why I don't predict what's going to happen, because I'm always wrong. And a lot of people, because I really downplayed it. I was like, you guys are being over dramatic. Like, it's never going to get overturned. Like, this is we got over half a century of precedent here, you know?
Right.
And yeah, I was wrong. I admit I was wrong. That was a poor judgment call. I should have taken that more seriously. But what just boggles my mind the most is that, like, we settled why this was bad a long time ago. I mean, what are all the impacts of abortion? Like, there's so many.
Well, right. I mean, it's a crazy amount of issues that are really derived from something that is obviously it's just a medical procedure, but like it proliferates through our society, just in a lot of crazy ways that you really don't necessarily think of. And I was thinking about this on the way up here, and I was like, this is essentially the same as like gun control. It's ends up being racist and classist, if not overtly racist. And it hurts all, everybody throughout society if you don't have the money or the legal ability to circumvent, set abortion laws. But I mean, obviously there's, it creates barriers to allow women to receive just procedures that they need, even though they aren't looking for abortions.
Right.
In ways that leads to a lot of injuries. I think like in some cases, like basically reproductive organs can be damaged, so you like lose those organs and then the ability to have more kids.
Absolutely. If you have an ectopic pregnancy that isn't like taken care of right away, that has the potential to permanently damage your reproductive system.
Right.
And this is something that I always try to point out is like, because I always go after Planned Parenthood, right? Like, oh, we shouldn't fund Planned Parenthood because like 1% of the services they provide is abortion. And it's like, Planned Parenthood does more to prevent abortion than every goddamn religious zealot organization that spends all of the money that they didn't spend helping, pregnant women have healthy pregnancies or anything on billboards being like, I had a heartbeat at however many weeks. Like, Planned Parenthood is the biggest anti-abortion organization in the country because they provide people with education, they provide people with prenatal care, they provide people with contraception, they provide people with all of the family planning things that they need so they don't have to have an abortion.
Right.
And you want to cut that funding and that service to increase the number of people who would end up needing an abortion, and it's just it's fucking mind-boggling to me. And that's the thing. And then you end up putting people in a position where when they do need these services, because again, a lot of women do need these services for whatever reason, which is none of our fucking business. But every reason's legitimate, but there's a lot of like health reasons and financial reasons, obviously, and just, you know, if it's Uncle Jim Bob's baby, you probably don't want to be having it type of reasons, and that sort of thing. Now suddenly you need to travel to another state, which they're making illegal as well.
Right, in Texas, my God, like they're going full like Big Brother, but outsourcing it to like people, and regular citizens, and it's fucking weird.
It's very brown shirty of them, and I'm just not.
Yeah, it's so. We're gonna deputize our citizens to make sure that people don't get abortions no matter what, and if they do, they're gonna be prosecuted later. Or if somebody knew about it, didn't say nothing, they're gonna be prosecuted for it. Like. It's insane down there.
It is absolutely insane. I mean, and it is genuinely fascism at that point. Like it's hard to really picture what else fascism would look like. Then your fellow citizen's going to turn you in for making a personal choice about your body, and you could go to prison or, i.e., be executed, perhaps, because that really seems like the direction they're trying to go with that shit. Right. And yeah, it's absolutely insane. But the fact that that this is a continuing problem, a continuing argument, is what gets me the most, because it shouldn't be. If you, especially when we watched the debate and they brought up late term, partial birth, after birth abortion, like, yeah, they're just chucking those things off of cliffs like it's Sparta or some shit.
Right, I believe that's called murder.
Infanticide, specifically. Yeah. There's a whole crime around that. Definitely already legal. We don't need to fight that battle.
Right, I'm pretty sure that's not quite in the same realm here. It is mind-boggling. The way that Trump discusses the topic at all, like he can't even be coherent in the right-wing messaging.
No.
Even back in 2016, he was never coherent about it.
Oh, you know, I mean, he's been doing the dementia thing longer than Reagan has at this point. But I think what frustrates me the most is that all of the rhetoric is outright lies. We get...
I mean, all of it is.
All of it, 100%. Like, if you are anti-abortion for any reason, you're wrong. First of all, you're just fucking wrong. Like, you are wrong legally, medically, financially, morally, ethically wrong. On across the board wrong. You cannot be more wrong, and you're a bad person, even if you don't think you're being a bad person. Like, if you have bought into this and you haven't just thought about it reasonably for a few seconds, there's no reason to be this ignorant on this topic. And I think that this is where I get so incredibly frustrated, just taking the emotion out of it and looking at it legally. And I think that this is a topic that I wish Democrats would just talk about more in general when standing up for this issue.
Yeah.
Is that, you know, if you need a kidney, the government can't compel me to give you one. They can't. If you needed a blood transfusion or just a quart of blood to survive or you're going to die, I'd be like, nah, I'm really not a big fan of needles. And you know what? I apologize, but good luck. You know, like, the government can't compel you to do that because your body, your tissue, your organs are your personal property. You are protected from unreasonable search and seizure. That is the constitutional protection, where we get the idea of our right to privacy from, is the Fourth Amendment. And also the Fifth Amendment, the government can't compel you or take your shit and use it without compensation. So we've got a few different um, constitutional protections from that to begin with. And so, like, why, even if you die, if you were a dead person and you did not originally be like, yeah, I will donate my organs so, kids at the cancer hospital can survive. If you're like, nah, I didn't even take the time to do it. I didn't opt in. You have to opt in to allowing your organs to be donated when you're dead to save other people. If you haven't given express consent for the use of your body even after you're dead, our idea of bodily autonomy is so fucking absolute that they can't do that. Like, they cannot use your dead body's organs to save anybody else. And it's just fucking mind-boggling. They're like, yeah, but then if it's a woman and she's pregnant with a thing that's not even legally a human being yet, because or a person, because the Constitution defines a person as somebody who's been born alive. So, if you're a fetus, you haven't been born alive yet. So you don't even get the constitutional rights, but therefore we're stripping a woman of all of her constitutional rights to bodily autonomy because reasons.
Yeah, because somewhere somebody decided that there's a passage or two that, they believe the Bible states somewhere that, life should be protected, from the moment of conception.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like fine, but like don't make a fucking law about it.
And the Bible doesn't even say that. The Bible, life begins at first breath.
Right.
The Bible also in the Old Testament, if you kill a woman, that's murder. If you cause a pregnant woman to miscarry, that's just a fine. Like there's no there's no context within the Bible that even what they get it from is I knew you before you were born, like God being omnipotent, knowing your soul before you were born, therefore once you're conceived you're already alive. That's they took that one verse and are like, we're just gonna ignore everything else that doesn't agree with this, which is what most people do with the Bible anyway.
Yeah,
I feel like
and I'm not like a biblical scholar, so I'm sure that's all correct. It sounds right, and I know that my wife would probably, be sitting here like, "Yep, those are right things," and also people who point to that specific verse are wrong for a million reasons. It is so just. I mean, the whole conservative party since Reagan has been fucking insane. In They've like majored in cognitive dissonance, at the school of fucking. I don't want to say trailer park. It just felt like the thing that rolled off the tongue. The non-college educated voter, I guess, is obviously the one the most likely to vote for Trump right now. But it somebody like Reagan to make his way to the presidency and then to just like virtue signal this crazy and
yeah, no, absolutely. He and I mean, considering he was hardly the picture of Christian virtue going into the presidency. But then just beyond the legal aspect of it, because obviously the Constitution doesn't seem to be something Republicans care about, no matter how much they put "We the People" window stickers in the back window of their truck.
Yeah.
That doesn't people are going to be like, well, morality is going to outweigh the Constitution, and it's just what's wrong, and all of these women are just using birth control or abortion as birth control, and again, that's not true. Just across the board, you will not find any evidence of women using. You might see women who repeatedly use Plan B, possibly after maybe not being the most responsible, and I don't know that I would call Plan B an abortion. I guess some on the conservative side might.
I feel like it's more of a contraception.
Yeah, regardless of how you feel about it, that's as close as you're gonna get. Is maybe a woman will have used Plan B a few times, to protect herself from a potential unwanted pregnancy. But no woman, it's not a fun experience to use those types of chemically induced
No,
contraceptives.
I very much doubt that.
I mean,
It's a
I
good time.
personally haven't gone through it,
Right.
obviously, but a lot of women that I've talked to who have had experience with it, it's like you feel like shit for a day or two at least. It's not something that's a fun, pleasant experience, and you're definitely not using it every time.
Right.
You got a pretty boring sex life if you're using that every time you have sex, because you're not going to do it if it makes you feel that bad. And then if you've gotten into a pregnancy for any length of time, it's just not gonna make any sense to use abortion as birth control, even if it's still chemically induced birth control like a pill, which you can do now for a while. Again, still not a pleasant experience. Those are ones you have to get prescribed by a doctor at this point. That's a lot of hoops to jump through, a lot of expensive hoops if you don't have health insurance of some sort. And so, like, again, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but then you get to the whole, because obviously there are like 18-week, 20-week abortion bans is kind of like seems to be the golden zone for Republicans trying to find the
Right.
sweet spot on infringing women's rights without completely getting voted out
was
of
the
office.
governor of I want to say like West Virginia or something like that, who said that not something moral conservatives or something like that brought like a 15-week ban.
Yeah. So it's in that range, and once you get to that point, now you're starting to look at like who's waiting 15 weeks or 20 weeks to end an unwanted pregnancy at that point.
Yeah, it feels like a long time. Even if it was, I still think it should be legal.
Oh, absolutely, it should be legal. But that's the point, is that women are not waiting until they've been carrying a fetus for months and months to get an abortion. You have
yeah, it's like what I'll find the exact statistic here, but it's a vast majority are within the first 12 weeks.
And by the time you reach the second or third trimester, this is a child you want at that point. Like being pregnant really seems like it sucks. Again, I haven't done it, but there's like a lot of swelling. There's a lot of like limited mobility. There's a lot of weird cravings for like pickles and peanut butter and shit like that.
Yeah.
And it's not something. And then everybody knows that you're pregnant. It's not something that you are visibly like everybody can visibly see you're pregnant. So then you just show up to work on Monday after being 8 months pregnant, and you're just like, nope, changed my mind. Sorry. Like nobody's doing that. And then it becomes a incredibly invasive, incredibly expensive procedure at that point. And
and so I'm looking here. It's like 80%, basically 80% of women have either had one abortion or no abortions. So like this isn't something that happens a lot.
No.
There's 8% of women that have had 3 or more abortions. 8%. So we should regulate the entire federal, law based off of, a very single digit, population, obviously.
It's fucking insane. But like, and again, getting back to the third term, late term abortion thing is where you are not. First of all, a doctor is not going to have that. Is not going to provide an abortion. It's not going to kill a viable child. Like, if you need to be induced or an emergency C-section, that's an abortion. You're aborting your pregnancy at that point. It doesn't mean that the baby's dying. It's if it can survive outside the womb, it is going to come outside the womb and survive. And if it can't survive outside,
murder it because they're like, oh, you said abortion, not just inducement. So, you signed the wrong form. Actually, you checked the wrong box. We're gonna throw this one in the incinerator. I'm like, no, that's insane. Like, that's ridiculous.
The incinerator. We're just gonna wheel you up and open the door and just squeeze it out right into there. Yeah, no, it is absolutely ridiculous to think that anybody would go through that, to think that there's a medical profession. First of all, it is already illegal for a doctor to perform an abortion on a viable pregnancy at that point, unless there is some sort of extreme risk to health, or, rape or incest are involved, and even then it shouldn't get to that point.
Yeah,
But,
and doctors aren't like inducing women who just are like, oh, I just want to I want to be done with the pregnancy. They're like,
Yeah.
no, you cannot do that.
Yeah.
They're not. You're not just being like, oh, well, you made it 8 months and you're done. So yeah, we're totally cool with that. Like,
and in fact, I haven't fact checked this, so take it with a grain of salt. But another woman tagged me in a video who she has supposedly been studying abortion and women's health care for, I don't know, 20 years, and said that of the millions of abortions that she has studied in that time frame, 6 late-term abortions have been elective. And of those 6, 3 of them were with minors. So that's kind of a,
it's a little rapey, you might say.
Exactly. And then the other 3 involved domestic violence, like,
again, a little rapey.
Yep. and then cancer, like extreme cancer thing, which again I would say elective, but health of the mother situation. So, providing that information is accurate, like I said, I haven't fact checked that, but that sounds,
that tracks with what I think reality.
Yeah,
would,
it would make the most sense for this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it financially makes no sense to wait to get an abortion. It legally shouldn't matter. It ethically and morally is none of your goddamn business.
Right, your Christian values mean nothing for regular people who aren't Christian and don't like make those values their entire personality and dictate the way that they live their lives.
It boggles my mind that people can just hear that and think, oh yeah, women are waiting 8 months to have an abortion.
Right.
Just think about it logically for 2 fucking seconds. Like, who would go through that? Why would anybody go through that? Come with.
They don't have any receipts because
there
are none.
Well, and it's like 0.0001% of abortions are considered late term, and I don't remember where the late term cutoff is, but it's like halfway through the
3rd trimester,
2nd trimester, I think.
Oh.
I don't remember exactly when it's considered late term, but it's about the time I suppose you're starting to show, and that the fact that that these people think that women are waiting that long and spending that kind of money to terminate these,
right.
And it's insulting. It truly is insulting, because these women have to have those incredibly traumatic procedures. They have a nursery painted. They have a name picked out. They have, this is a wanted child at that point.
Right.
And it just, last 3 months of pregnancy is considered late term, according to the comments here. So, which I'll believe. I don't know. But then, obviously, having this conversation, we've been having a lot of people. I know one of the biggest arguments is, oh well, we're not trying to ban it, which they definitely are. They've repeatedly tried to ban it. Even Trump tried to sign a 20-week abortion ban when he was president, and now he's, backing off of that because everybody's like, this is the dumbest fucking policy ever. Maybe you should just mind your own fucking business.
I actually read an article from the New York Times this week that said that Christian conservatives are feeling basically persecuted now and feel like they do not have representation because Trump and the public is no longer supporting. Well, obviously the public has never supported abortion bans, but Trump specifically is no longer supporting abortion bans and all this stuff. And so apparently now conservative Christians are being persecuted and have less stake in society.
I feel like this is something they go with about every issue, is like, you know who's really persecuted in this country? Straight white Christian men. We're the ones who have it the hardest. Like, it's, you can be gay brown and the government just hands you everything. But no, you're straight white Christian man. Like, buying a Mountain Dew is racist now. according to J.D. Vance.
Right. Yeah. He's.
It just
fucking insane.
yeah, it's so insane. I definitely had a direction I was going with
I
this.
totally derailed you there.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that was the dumbest fucking thing. Trump would sign an abortion ban. And obviously this is being walked back, and so many people trying to defend like him appointing these judges and him bragging about getting Roe overturned and all this is like, oh, they're just giving it back to the states where it belongs. And I literally had a woman I did a stitch of her video to respond to that very rhetoric, and she's like, how you do not understand that it's taking it from the federal government telling everybody what they can do and giving it to the states where it belongs.
Right.
And I'm like, the federal government wasn't telling anybody what they could do. It was telling the states that they couldn't tell people what they weren't allowed to do.
And they actually did allow the states to make, have discretions on when, you were allowed to have abortions and when you weren't. So like
it's the fact, and that states' rights thing is it's so cringy.
It's really bad
about how close that is to literal slavery. Like that was
Right.
the argument for slavery, is the state should be allowed to decide what civil liberties its minority citizens can have, whether that's women, whether that's black or brown people. There's the states. The states are still governments too. Like we're just taking it away from the government and giving it to the states governments. It just like, how are you people this stupid? Can you please explain it to me? And I know that none of these people ever come into my comments because I don't know, they're scared or the algorithm does its job. I'm not entirely sure, but
they don't have any interest in hearing people discuss facts and statistics and arguing morality.
It's like the facts over feelings crowd is really they've gotten so into the facts that they're sold out of facts, and all they've got left is just a surplus of feelings,
Right.
and that's all that they're working with now.
Going back to the legal aspect for a second here, I just did a quick Google search because Google is always 100% correct and is never wrong. Supposedly, if you injure a pregnant woman and she miscarries, depending on where you are, basically you're going to receive an assault or battery charge. Not manslaughter, not murder charge.
So I guess piggybacking off of this, and I get this occasionally with people trying to argue this, is if you murder a pregnant woman in 30 some odd states, you can get charged with double homicide. But this is an interesting thing because everybody brings this up as a gotcha. Like, oh, if you kill a pregnant woman, then you can get charged with double homicide. And it's like, first of all, that's not federal. That's states. And second of all, that was a wanted child that, was not that I necessarily agree that double homicide should be the specific charge for that. But again, it's not a federal crime. I mean, it's a federal crime, obviously, to murder anybody, but it's not federally recognized that killing a pregnant woman is a double homicide. That's not congruent across all 50 states. And that, again, doesn't still extend personhood to the unborn.
Right. Consequences for committing a criminal act don't equate, don't really define what a person is.
No.
In this situation.
And the Constitution clearly defines what a person is. Like, very, very clearly defines what a person is. It is any member of the species Homo sapien that has been born alive. Born alive, it defines as being fully expelled or extracted from the mother and is breathing and moving voluntarily on its own. Like, that is a person. That is what the Constitution extends rights to.
Or, I mean, you could say Roe v. Wade was at one point constitutionally, correct in that it defined life as like being able to exist outside of a womb,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So
And but even then it doesn't matter because whether it's alive or not, you're not obligated to use your body to keep anything else alive.
morally speaking, you shouldn't be
No, legally
obligated.
speaking, you're not. Like I say, you're not even morally obligated or legally obligated to use your dead body to keep anything else alive. Like your body is your own property. Bodily autonomy is so absolute that you cannot be legally required to use it. Once that child's born, if it needed a blood transfusion or anything, immediately from the mother can't be compelled to do it.
Sure.
So dead people have more bodily autonomy than a pregnant woman.
I was just thinking of, are there any laws about like expectant mothers if they are like endangering the health of like their unborn, you know?
Oh, like if you're smoking or drinking, can you get in trouble for fetal alcohol syndrome? I guess I don't know. Doing drug, I don't think you can. You can obviously, once it's born, you can get in trouble for, endangering the life of a child, but I don't know.
Some states have laws that allow a fetus to be considered a victim of a crime, which includes fetal assault, fetal homicide, or fetal protection laws. That's probably where that lies. Yeah.
I really, there's no federal law that covers that, which once again is what we're,
So there's the Unborn Victims of Violence Act.
which also makes an exception for,
Yeah, that's against people who commit crimes against the mother.
yeah, which is what allows states to charge people with double homicide. I think
Oh, sure.
that particular act allows states to make that decision. But there's another act, I forget what it is, that was like a stepping stone to trying to give personhood to fetuses, and even that act made an exception for abortion.
Well, just getting back to
Mhm.
just I think what most conservatives are looking at here is like
Yeah.
what in their mind is the moral thing to do. I don't
Mhm.
think they're really considering the legal
Right.
aspects. They're
Mhm.
basically virtue signaling what they believe is to be the correct moral and ethical stance. And I don't think they have much more to say beyond that, which is where
then
I think where I think they hold the least amount of water.
Right.
You know?
And even the moral and ethical stance then. So how often, because most of them will say, oh, well, I believe in exceptions for health of the mother, or I believe in exceptions for rape and incest, which, no, you don't. Because if you support these kinds of bans, you don't believe in those exceptions, even if you say you do, because the reality is that those exceptions don't exist, right? Like, because even if there is something written into the law, the loopholes and obstacles that are put in place to make sure that, a doctor isn't gets in trouble for malpractice or worse, criminally prosecuted for performing this,
Right.
is going to end up causing these women to have to endure a non-viable or potentially dangerous pregnancy longer, which is then, if they end up dying or becoming injured in that time frame, means that there was no exception to that abortion ruling at
Right.
that point. And we're seeing this happen. We're seeing this happen in Texas and Idaho.
Well, and like Ohio,
Yeah.
10-year-old girl
Mm-hmm.
gets pregnant, gets raped, and then has to travel to Indiana to get an abortion.
Mm-hmm. So obviously those exceptions, they don't work.
No.
So even if you think that the exception's written into the law, and that's the thing is, like, why, if you got to think about this from the doctor's perspective, if you have the potential to lose your license, which you spent all of this money
Yeah.
getting, that's your livelihood, you're going to be a lot less inclined to put your own personal well-being on the line to help somebody who needs it, even if there is that exception, because we know that these people are fucking psychotic. I mean, these are the same people who, blow up abortion clinics and shit like that. Like, you know that these people will come at you with torches and pitchforks for providing these services, even when it's in their own claims justified.
Right.
Why are you going to put yourself in that position? And a lot of people don't. And then a lot of doctors don't. And then a lot of doctors are just fleeing these states in general. Like,
Yeah.
OBGYNs, like, good luck just getting an OBGYN for just regular care.
Yeah, I heard like 77% of third and fourth year medical students that are OBGYNs would not consider applying to residencies in states that have abortion bans.
So then what happens when now you need these people to, deliver healthy babies and help women have healthy pregnancies and
prenatal
all this
care is a thing, that women need when they're pregnant.
Screen women for ovarian cancer and all of this kind of stuff. This is essential care. Like, women's reproductive health care is essential care.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the medical professionals in these states to do it because they could lose their license for providing the care that they are there to provide, why would they go there? And so these states are struggling to just maintain just the bare minimum basic care, healthcare professionals just to provide, regular routine care, not even to do with abortions. And this is how wide-ranging and negative these effects can be.
Well, right. In some cases, it's like if you are found by the government to have performed a medical procedure that is construed as an abortion when it's, in a case where it's like a potential miscarry or it is absolutely miscarry and the doctor is like overly cautious to perform a procedure. If you perform that procedure and you don't have enough proof, quote unquote, that, it's like a miscarriage, then, you get sent to jail for 10 years or you delay care and get additional proof or require additional proof. And then the woman deals with extra medical, consequences for the delayed care. And then you get sued because you delayed care and there were complications or deaths, in the case of like somebody like Amber Thurman, who was delayed care and sought, abortion care outside of her home state and then, went back to Georgia and they were like, no, you have to prove this is a miscarriage or like they just weren't willing to help her out in, fulfilling the medical procedure that she needed. Yeah. And there wasn't enough time. And I got all this Fox News articles there's nothing in the law that says that she shouldn't have received this care. The mother always has the right to live and all the procedures are for pro parents and pro mothers. And it's like, no, you fucking idiot. There are consequences that go beyond just exactly what the law says, and it impacts people in this way. And the fact that you can't see that is fucking mind-boggling.
And again, it's like just put yourself in the position of that medical professional.
Right.
Like, yeah, I get it. They probably should have, and we would all like to think that if we were in that position, we would have. But then how many times have we not spoken up when we probably should have in some situation because it may negatively affect our lives, our job, our, we all like to think that, we're the heroes in our own mind until we're actually put in those positions. And you can't expect medical professionals they're still human and they took the Hippocratic Oath, but they also still have bills to pay and they have a career to think about and they, and they don't want to go to prison for 10 years because they didn't accrue the right amount of testing and proof to make sure that they legally performed this abortion under some ridiculous oppressive abortion law. It's just it's absolutely insane. And the fact that they continue to press this kind of rhetoric, it's lies, it's bullshit, it's propaganda designed to demonize and dehumanize women to get votes. Based on a completely made up problem of But it's a made-up problem that the quote-unquote solutions cause a very, very real problem where people die, women die. How many women are going to die just because they can't get the care that they need? They aren't going to get the screening to catch that ovarian cancer when it can be treated because there's just not enough medical professionals in those states now to provide that kind of care. Like, how many other people are going to die just beyond the women, the direct when we're talking about abortion?
Right,
how
that
many?
Are carrying a baby, right, or a fetus, whatever. Yeah, no, it's gonna proliferate through red states, and it's not only is it gonna hurt medical care, but it's gonna hurt their economies because they're not gonna have as medical. The medical economy is a billion, tens of multi-billion-dollar business across the country, and in many states, it's hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars being poured into cities and states. So, if you have less ability to give healthcare, then you're going to lose money too. And if the economy is your biggest issue in this upcoming election, then that should be a consideration. Not that it would be for somebody who is that wrapped around that economy is so bad and Donald Trump good, mindset. But
yeah, it's not so, and that's a great point too. Is if you're looking to start a family and do all that, and you're an educated professional who wants to move to a place and start a life and start a family, being able to get the prerequisite necessary medical care to do that is probably going to be somewhat high on your list. Just like people look at schools, people look at quality of life, and this is one of the things people look at is how is the health care in the particular state I'm going to, and this is a huge portion of healthcare.
Right.
And so if you're trying to attract
quality labor for your labor force, which I think is something that people say is a good thing to have in a well-working economy. You don't actively make laws that, advocate for brain drain, essentially, is what you're going to end up with.
Absolutely. No, it's 100%. And I remember, by the way, apologies, guys. It is the run up to my weddings this weekend, so we have really slacked on putting together the structure. So if this feels a little all over the place, that's definitely my fault. I'm pushing through. We've been trying to make sure we got enough content put together here for when we're gone on the honeymoon and everything like that. So so I apologize if it's a little scattered. My brain is definitely very close to shutting down and just going into power save mode. But one of the other things that I wanted to bring up about the abortion bans and about people dying is that mothers across the board are pregnant women anyway across the board are now up to 3 times more likely to die during pregnancy at any point than in states with no abortion restrictions whatsoever. And this is again not just for women who are having abortions. This is because they are running out of the medical professionals that they need to provide these kinds of services. It's
women who want to have the babies.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
If you can't get in for an ultrasound or something because there's only one doctor for 10,000 women, and the ultrasound would have caught something that would have caused you and or your baby to survive, and you couldn't get it because again you need to travel to a state that's not so fucking medieval.
Right. Or there's a woman who testified in front of Congress that she in Louisiana. She was trying to get prenatal care for her 8 to 10 week, baby. And they were like, no, come back when you're at 12 because we don't want to have to deal with somebody who's that early on in their pregnancy. If they need abortion, an abortion care because of a miscarriage, then we don't want to have to deal with the legal ambiguity of that. So they were like, no, we're not going to give you prenatal care.
We're not going to give you the thing to help you have your baby because
we might have to deal with the legal consequences of a miscarriage.
Oh my God. Why do we live in this timeline? She
actually did end up having a miscarriage at week 11. So if she had maybe received earlier prenatal care, I don't know.
May have been okay.
Maybe.
I mean, it's not to say, but we know we could have done more.
Right. There was probably a better chance of that,
There was definitely more steps we could have taken to prevent this. It may not
Yeah.
have been prevented, but there was more that could have been done,
Yeah. It was not only her that could have prevented the forest fire. There's a whole team of doctors that could have helped hopefully prevent that from happening. So abortion bans are really all over. It hurts everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the people in the comments too, who tragically had a miscarriage here, said on my discharge paperwork after a miscarriage, it said spontaneous abortion. So it also makes me wonder, on abortion statistics, how many are even actually abortions. I don't know anything about that, but that's
Sure. Well, statistically, abortions are actually we have less abortions today than we did even.
Oh, we're at a record low for abortions because
right.
Big surprise when you give people education, contraception, and
just people having less children in general.
Yeah.
That trend, but
but people are more educated now. Like sex education is
Right.
more available than it ever was. Contraception is more available today than it ever was. That's going backwards now, sadly. But but we are kind of at that peak.
You got to teach the Bible in class.
So you people are making more informed decisions about family planning. You're gonna have fewer abortions. It's just and that's the other thing. I've got no statistics to back this one up, but I feel like this is common sense enough that I shouldn't need them. Yeah, I'm gonna make one of those claims right now.
Let's hear it.
All right.
Can't wait.
Banning abortion or putting in abortion restrictions will cause more elective late-term abortions. Because if you have less access to it to get it when it's, within a reasonable time to get an abortion just because you feel you're not ready and you want to terminate a pregnancy, because you don't have the access to it and you don't have the financial need, because that's one of the biggest reasons why people would terminate a pregnancy, right, is they're not in a financial place to have a child early on. That's going to take them longer to find a way to terminate that pregnancy, and that is going to lead to later and later and more dangerous abortions. I mean, that seems pretty... If somebody could prove that wrong, I would definitely listen to it, but I feel like...
So I think the only thing that I can think of is that the later on in the pregnancy that you receive that sort of care, the more medically dangerous and or more medical expertise you need to perform an abortion. And so I think that if you're gonna go black market, there's a threshold of which somebody would do it, and I don't think that changes anything.
I mean, it's going to be later than when you could potentially just get it with a pill for that, chemically induced abortion.
I think it's the process of which somebody decides that they don't want to have the kid still happens at the same time, and maybe they're delayed by a week or two, but I don't think they're being I don't think the decision is being delayed. It's just, can they find somebody to give them said care, and how difficult that is.
Oh, no, I don't think the decision would be delayed. I just think that obviously finding the resources to obtain that particular service or, that medical care would be delayed.
Yeah.
And that is going to push you further into the pregnancy. You know what I mean? And just knowing how long it takes just to get regular care on...
Yeah.
It takes weeks sometimes for what would be considered, pretty pressing care to begin with. And now when you're talking about an abortion, especially abortion bans that are within, they're talking weeks at this point, not even months a lot of times. It's absolutely, I think, probably undeniable that making those bans would push that further back.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Likely it'll be pushed back a bit, and it'll be under much more unsafe circumstances, and it'll be...
Well, I mean, obviously, the back alley abortions that used to be the coat hanger abortions, so to speak. And so, obviously, women will do more damage to themselves or receive more damage. And in getting these, but also, you know, it becomes more unsafe the later it pushes on through the pregnancy as well.
For sure.
I don't know. It's just insane. Late-term abortions aren't a thing. Elective late-term abortions are not a thing. They just do not happen.
No, 96% of abortions are within under 15 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's a non-issue for like people who are wanting to give the whole moral like argument. It's not.
Yeah, everybody was like, well, we need to regulate or stop these things. And again, it's like, why? It's like even there's no situation. All you're doing is putting people more in harm's way on this, because if you are trying to save children or save moms or like everything you're doing now is just putting another obstacle between a doctor providing the best health care for an expecting mother.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad all around. There's obviously hugely increased health risks. There's the financial hardship if you do want to receive an abortion, or just quality, OBGYN healthcare. You maybe want to travel to a different state to have your kid. And, there's plenty of situations where a particular state or area has a hugely higher mortality rate than just traveling 100, 200 miles. So there's that hardship of making the time to go do that, getting a hotel room, taking extra time off work, like it.
And a lot of people just genuinely can't afford that. Like, I mean, that
Right.
is outside the resources that a lot of people, especially a lot of people who find themselves in a situation needing an abortion because,
they don't feel like they can take care of what they
Yeah.
need, right? Like a reasonable,
Yeah.
question is like, can I take care of myself and another person? It's like, that's a good question to be asking. It's like that.
A very reasonable thing,
it's
and
a
a
very
very
reasonable.
reasonable reason to consider this type of medical procedure. Not that you need a reasonable reason. You can just be like, it's Tuesday and I don't feel like having a fucking kid today, and that's a good enough reason. And this is, which really is what it comes back down to, is mind your fucking business.
Right.
Let doctors. Don't put any obstacles in the way of doctors providing the best care for their patients.
Exactly.
And don't put obstacles in the way of women receiving the best care that they need. Like, there's just no two ways about that. And again, it just makes no sense, because all of the problems that they're trying to solve with these are not real problems. They're completely made up. They are lies. They are lies. If you think that women are using abortion as birth control, that's a lie. If you think women are having late-term abortions, partial birth abortions, after-birth abortions,
Right.
Those are fucking lies. You are a bad person for spreading those lies. You are actively harming women and children and just people, society in general, with those lies. And you need to stop. You need to stop being a bad person. Just...
Yeah, I mean, it does kind of come down to that bare bones kind of base level of just reality. Like, are you living in reality, or do you live in a just la la land, like a completely different reality where facts and statistics don't mean
that
anything?
Is absolutely where. Have you met these people? That's absolutely where they live.
I know.
Migrants are literally climbing over the Trump's border wall that was totally built like the zombie apocalypse in World War Z, and women are having 9.5-month abortions, and you're just chucking the 6-month-old just right out the window. Just like it's legal now in those liberal states. Women can just throw their baby out the window if they don't want it anymore. Perfectly legal, and they're eating all the cats and dogs in Ohio, and Venezuelan gangs have taken all of Colorado is just now a Venezuelan gang. There's nothing left in Colorado except a Venezuelan gang, and buying Mountain Dew is racist, and that's really that's where America is in the minds of a conservative.
Yeah, a little bit. So I mean, that's why if you care about women's health care and just overall well-being of women and men in society, and receiving, healthcare at all, don't fucking vote for Donald Trump. It's that simple. And vote for, representatives who even remotely are, for reproductive rights. It's
Not even, they're like, This should be an absolute issue. There should be, you're either completely for unrestricted abortion access. The only restriction should be on the medical professional's ability, like doctor, like they have to be a doctor and licensed to do these kinds of procedures. Is really all it should really come down to. Is
right. Because it should be decriminalized. There should be no laws because people aren't abusing this care.
Yeah,
people are using it as necessary.
And you know what? Aren't we for limited government? Shouldn't we get the government out of people's lives? I get putting it in the hands of the state, but how about let's make it more localized than that? Not even
let's make it localized to one patient room at a time.
Yeah, one person. Let's give the power back to the people.
Right. Yeah. I have heard that big government's not the greatest from some people. I think those people should consider this episode.
All right, guys. Sorry this was not as coherently laid out and thought out as they normally are. Like I said, it's weeks before the wedding. Taylor just moved. We've been running on fumes, trying to get all this stuff done.
This guy gets a honeymoon, and I get a break from him.
Yep. Yeah, so we're coming up, but we appreciate the fact that you guys have stuck with us, and we hope we got the point across on this one. We will we'll be better next time around here. Get back to the more.
I just think this is a topic that we can kind of like really, really delve deep into, but I feel like
it comes down to something so fucking simple, as in it's not your fucking business. Legally, it makes no sense. Logically, it's not something that happens. Statistically,
there's no good thing that will ever come from having an abortion ban. There's not one thing, not a single thing. And so I guess
all of the things that people argue for abortion bans are completely fucking made up. Completely made up. It is more made up than the fairy tale book that you believe means that people shouldn't have abortions in the first place, which also doesn't say that. But it's a completely made up problem. Like all of your fucking problems that you come up with. It's amazing. I don't convince more people that they're.
Yeah, I know. You really bring them in and make them feel like you
feel hurt,
want to touch their humanity. It's a gift, really.
I just have a very low tolerance for such stupidity. The level of stupid you have to be to believe that women are having late-term abortions, or that abortion in any way should be restricted, or that immigrants are flooding across the border, or Haitians are eating cats and dogs in Ohio because you saw it on a Facebook meme. Like, you guys gotta listen to yourselves sometimes. Just please, for the love of God.
They can't hear what they're saying.
Or that immigrants commit more crime. Literally, you're here and you're undocumented and could be deported for any reason at any time. And you're like, yeah, I definitely don't want the cops paying attention to me. Anyway, it's time for crime. Just gonna rob this convenience store, mug an old lady, rape somebody on the side of the road on the way home, and definitely that's what I'm here to do in America. Spent my life savings walking across the desert to get here. And,
I couldn't have done any of that at home, Anyways, it's that level of insanity, but worse on this topic specifically. This is probably the worst conservative talking point and topic.
And that's a low bar.
It's really, really low.
Or a high bar. I guess I don't know which one we're going for, but
that's a good point.
It's a bar, whether you're going under or over, whatever is the should be the harder thing to do is very at the wrong level.
Get rid of the bar. Shouldn't be a
bar.
Just shouldn't be any bans.
Oh, man. I love all you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us all the time. We really do appreciate it. Like I said, we will be definitely more coherent, more structured on our next one, getting back into the swing of things. But it's been a busy few months for both of us, and we appreciate you riding it out.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot for you in a couple weeks leading up to the election. So
Absolutely.
stay tuned for that.
And yeah, we love you. If you guys support the channel, even with our subpar and mediocre content we've been giving you lately, offyourwagon.com. There is our merch there. We've got subscriptions on Patreon, on YouTube, on I think you can even subscribe on Instagram.
What about TikTok? Did you get the TikTok one set up yet?
I might have. I don't know. You might be able to subscribe there. Go check it out. If you can, give it a shot. Tell me how it works out. But we appreciate that. We appreciate even if you don't, if you can't, totally understand that too. We do this because you guys hang out and listen.
Hit a like, hit a share, and just turn it on and walk away if that's if that's your mojo, like
anything. We do this because you guys listen first and foremost, and then everything else is just because lights cost money, and
electricity isn't free yet.
Neither is the internet or the software we got to buy to do all this shit. So. Yeah, no, we appreciate you guys, and thank you for all the wedding wishes that you guys have been sending. I appreciate that too, and we'll be seeing you guys here next week. Don't forget, register to vote. Check your registration if you think you're registered to vote, because they're trying to unregister as many people to vote as possible. So check all that. Early vote if you can. Absentee vote if you can. Make sure that you are counted and get your votes in. I know every election is the most important election of our lifetime, and that is true. But I don't think it's ever been more true than it is this election.
The next W is the most important game is the next one. Right? Every sports movie ever.
Yep. But yeah, no, we love y'all, and we will see you next week.
That's right. Thanks for tuning in, guys.